in the snow-covered Blue Ridge Mountains.
They're helping me, I'm helping them. It's a good relationship.
Eustace Conway became one of the most recognizable faces on the Mountain Men show. But fame didn't always bring him fortune. It often brought challenges and scrutiny. Was he truly living off the grid, or had his lifestyle been exaggerated for television? Were there hidden truths about the show that fans never saw? And did his sudden disappearance from the series signal something more serious? These questions, and countless rumors, followed him throughout his time on the screen. Now, at 61, Eustace has stepped forward to reveal what really happened. So sit back and let's take you through the full story. Who really is Eustace Conway? Anyone who has ever watched Mountain Men knows the name Eustace Conway. He's the tall, silver-haired man with rugged work clothes, the one who seems to have mastered every secret of surviving in the wild. But long before the cameras started rolling, Eustace had already built a life that most people today could barely imagine. To understand who he truly is, we have to look back at where it all began. Eustace Robinson Conway was born on September 15, 1961, in Columbia, South Carolina. His parents, Eustace Robinson Conway III and Karen Conway, were intelligent and strong-minded individuals. Though the family lived a normal modern life, young Eustace seemed wired differently from the start. While other kids spent their days watching television or playing in backyards, he disappeared into the woods, building shelters from branches and pretending to survive off the land. By his teenage years, it was clear that Eustace's fascination with the outdoors wasn't a passing phase. He was genuinely drawn to nature in a way few people were. At just 12 years old, he took his first extended trip away from home, camping deep in the woods for a week with little more than a knife, a bit of food, and his own determination. Out there, surrounded by trees and silence, he felt truly alive. That experience made him realize where he truly belonged. At 17, Eustace made a choice that stunned everyone around him. Instead of preparing for college or city life, he packed up and moved into a teepee high in the Appalachian Mountains. Imagine that, a teenager giving up electricity, running water, and every comfort of modern living just to test himself against nature. This wasn't a short adventure. It became his new way of life. He chopped firewood, carried water from creeks, hunted for food, and built his own cabin from scratch. Every sunrise brought another challenge, and every night ended beneath the open stars. This decision marked the beginning of his life's mission, to live as close to the earth as humanly possible. Eustace believed that modern society had weakened people, pulling them away from self-reliance and true connection. He wanted to prove that there was another path, one where a person could live in harmony with nature, just as humans had for thousands of years. To him, this wasn't punishment, it was freedom. He once described the experience as feeling more awake and alive than ever before. Away from the chaos of the modern world, he found clarity and peace. After completing his early education, Eustace attended Appalachian State University, where he studied anthropology and English, subjects that perfectly matched his interests. Anthropology helped him understand human history and traditional cultures, while English gave him the voice to share his story. Even in college, he refused to give up his rustic lifestyle. While his classmates lived in dorms, Eustace continued staying in his teepee, chopping wood, and hauling water every day. During his 20s, his thirst for adventure only grew stronger. In 1982, he hiked the entire Appalachian Trail, a 2,000-mile trek stretching from Georgia to Maine, a journey that breaks most who attempt it. But Eustace finished it. A few years later, he made history again, riding across the entire United States on horseback, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, covering nearly 2,500 miles in just 100 days. That ride wasn't just a stunt, it was his way of proving that old methods of travel still carried deep meaning and value. By then, Eustace was more than just a man living in the woods. He was becoming a symbol of independence, courage, and a rejection of modern dependency. His story spread across the country. Journalists interviewed him, authors wrote about him, and he was soon featured in Elizabeth Gilbert's book, The Last American Man, which portrayed him as one of the last true frontiersmen of America. But his greatest legacy began in 1987, when he purchased a large piece of land in Boone, North Carolina, and named it Turtle Island Preserve. There, he welcomed people from all walks of life to learn forgotten skills, how to build cabins, craft tools, farm, and live without modern luxuries. For Eustace, Turtle Island was more than land. It was a living classroom, his way of giving back what modern life had taken away. It wasn't an easy dream to maintain. Legal issues over building codes, financial challenges, and endless physical work made every day a battle. Yet Eustace never gave up. He once said that the modern world had stripped people of their strength, their sense of community, and their connection to the earth, and Turtle Island was his way to help restore it. When the History Channel launched Mountain Men in 2012, Eustace was a natural fit. The series followed men who chose to live off the grid, far from modern society. For millions of viewers, watching Eustace chop wood, ride horses, and handle the unpredictable challenges of the wilderness was like witnessing a living piece of history. Still, fame meant little to him. Eustace continued his same humble routines, rising with the sun, splitting logs, teaching students, and nurturing his land. Now in his 60s, Eustace Conway has lived a life few could imagine. He remains a living symbol of resilience, independence, and devotion to nature, a man who deliberately chose the hard way, the honest way. Yet some people began to wonder, was his life really easier than ours? Were men like Eustace escaping modern stress, or simply facing a different kind of struggle? And that's where the whispers began. The rumors that questioned whether life as a mountain man was truly better after all. The whispers and speculations. Living in the public eye through a national show like Mountain Men comes with its own set of challenges. When your life is broadcast to millions, people begin to notice every gesture, every word, every glance, and from that, rumors are born. Viewers admired Eustace Conway as the fearless woodsman, the man who seemed to know every secret of survival. His life in the wilderness fascinated audiences, who saw him as a symbol of freedom and simplicity. But for Eustace, life at Turtle Island was anything but simple. The cameras captured the log cabins, the hunting, the horseback rides, but rarely the exhaustion, the daily grind, and the unseen struggles of living without modern conveniences. Behind the scenes, things weren't as effortless as they looked. Questions began to swirl. Was Turtle Island in danger? Was Eustace struggling more than the show revealed? And most of all, would he ever walk away from the life that had defined him? The truth was far more complex than what made it to television. While Mountain Men showcased his strength and skill, it rarely revealed the personal toll that lifestyle took on him. Eustace, the man who had built a preserve from nothing, had also endured setbacks, disappointments, and hardship that few ever saw. One of the first real battles he faced was against his own body. When you live in the wilderness, your health is your greatest weapon. Every single day brings labor, chopping and stacking wood, fixing fences, hauling supplies, and teaching visitors. Eustace performed all of this hard work daily just to keep life running in the wild. Over the years, the constant strain began to wear him down. His joints ached, his muscles grew weaker, and the long hours under punishing weather started to leave their mark. Fans of Mountain Men noticed the change too. They remembered the early days of the show, when Eustace could split logs from sunrise to sunset, carry heavy timber up the mountain, and still find the energy to teach late into the night. But as time passed, those once boundless reserves of strength seemed to fade. That's when the whispers began. Was Eustace ill? Was he hiding an injury? Online discussions grew wild, some even suggesting he might be battling a serious health problem. Yet through it all, Eustace stayed silent, neither confirming nor denying a thing. Then came the rumors about Turtle Island Preserve itself. Managing over 1,000 acres of land while keeping it open to the public was no small task. Over time, Eustace found himself entangled in ongoing legal disputes with the state of North Carolina. Inspectors claimed that his handmade log structures didn't meet modern building codes. From their perspective, a cabin built by hand should be held to the same standards as a suburban home. But to Eustace, that idea went against everything Turtle Island stood for. For a time, the preserve was even closed to visitors due to safety concerns, and that only fueled the gossip. Was Eustace losing his life's work? Were financial troubles threatening the preserve's future? Many wondered if the constant pressure might finally push him to shut it down. Meanwhile, more rumors began to circulate about the Mountain Men series itself. Viewers speculated that Eustace had grown tired of being on television. From the start, he had never been someone who sought fame. He simply allowed the cameras to follow the life he was already living. Soon, the question spread. Would Eustace leave the show altogether? Was he ready to return fully to the quiet, private life he had before television found him? What made the gossip even harder to dismiss was that there were bits of truth buried inside. Eustace was aging. He had faced legal issues. And yes, he had struggled, just like any other person. But the public rarely saw those nuances. Instead, speculation twisted small truths into sweeping stories, making it hard to separate fact from fiction. The rumors hit a fever pitch when a new season of Mountain Men aired, and Eustace was nowhere to be seen. Fan forums exploded, social media filled with questions, and even online articles began asking, "Is Eustace Conway retiring? Is Turtle Island shutting down?" The real answers, however, were something only Eustace himself could provide. And when he finally broke his silence, what he revealed gave fans a deeper understanding of what he had truly been facing. But before uncovering his side of the story, it's important to look closely at the real struggles and burdens of keeping Turtle Island alive. The daily battles, the unseen weight, and the price of living a life so few could ever imagine. The trials and obstacles of Turtle Island. To many viewers of Mountain Men, Eustace Conway is the ultimate symbol of independence and self-reliance. Yet behind the serene forests and hand-built cabins, there were struggles that few ever witnessed. Running Turtle Island Preserve was no simple task. Legal battles with the state of North Carolina tested him in ways that went far beyond chopping wood or hunting. In 2012, following multiple violation notices, the preserve was forced to close temporarily. Officials from the Watauga County Planning and Inspection Department, acting on a complaint about an allegedly illegal building, visited the property and found dozens of structures that had never been permitted. According to them, these buildings did not meet the North Carolina State Building Code. The county attorney presented Eustace with three options: bring the structures up to minimum state standards, have a certified expert prove they already met code, or obtain proper permits, or demolish them. At the same time, the health department issued several notices for alleged violations of state health regulations outlined in the North Carolina Administrative Code, instructing the preserve to halt all food service, lodging, and primitive camping activities open to the public. What unfolded was more than a clash between government and individual. It highlighted a conflict between perception and reality. According to County Planning Director Joe Furman, the dispute began in late spring of 2012 with an anonymous phone call. About a week later, an unmarked envelope arrived containing a detailed, color-coded map showing buildings, road grading, and wiring allegedly created without permits, inspections, or proper engineering. Inspectors began at Conway's home and immediately noted several concerns. Buildings lacked standard water and sewer connections, and most were constructed from wood milled on site, rather than the graded lumber mandated by code. Solar panels powered equipment in Conway's small office, while a micro-hydroelectric system ran a nearby workshop. Inspectors flagged wiring and junction boxes that didn't meet code, a wood stove vented improperly under a metal roof, and unpermitted outhouses intended for public use. Several buildings were not properly anchored to their stone foundations. In a 78-page report, consultant Whaley concluded that many structures were unsafe. Conway and supporters argued the inspectors missed the point. How could he teach primitive living using modern codes designed for conventional houses? Conway insisted that humans had built their own shelters for thousands of years, and now laws prevented them from using the materials growing on their own land. To him, this wasn't merely a regulatory dispute, it was a matter of human rights. To counter the official report, Conway posted interviews with certified building inspector Drew Kelly on YouTube. Kelly confirmed that most buildings were constructed safely, at minimum standards above what many modern houses required. Conway argued that traditional building techniques had been used throughout the mountains for generations, and modern codes favored corporate practices over sustainable, self-sufficient methods. He also maintained that his rock foundations were more durable than typical modern foundations, which were prone to cracking and failure. Were these buildings compliant with modern codes? No, but that was because they were not meant to be modern. Why did these complaints emerge 26 years after Turtle Island was established? Conway himself questioned the timing, suspecting there might be motivations beyond regulations. In all that time, the preserve had never had structural issues or health violations, and Conway claimed he hadn't changed any practices. He doubted a real complaint had ever been made. The only building inspector visit prior to this was in 2002, during which Conway showed agricultural buildings exempt from permits. Yearly health inspections approved all outhouses except his private residence, though the health department disputed this claim. Conway suspected that the planning department's scrutiny coincided with the first season of Mountain Men. For Eustace, the conflict blurred the line between perception and reality. While the show portrayed man against nature, Conway's real struggle often involved bureaucracy. He felt the county infringed upon personal freedoms, property rights, and traditional mountain culture. What infuriated him most was that while mountain men celebrated living close to the land, government officials treated survival skills and primitive living as violations of law. Staff and supporters launched a petition urging the North Carolina Building Codes Council to consider the preserve's unique mission. Nearly 10,000 signatures poured in, alongside emails, calls, and social media support from around the world. The issue gained the attention of state officials. In response, the North Carolina General Assembly introduced legislation exempting primitive camps, barns, sheds, outhouses, and similar structures from standard building codes. Both the House and Senate passed the bill unanimously, and Governor Pat McCrory signed it into law on June 12, 2013. Turtle Island reopened shortly after, and Eustace's reputation as a folk hero grew even stronger. Yet, legal battles were not his only challenge. In August 2005, Kimberly Baker, a 28-year-old visitor, was blinded in one eye during a stone-throwing demonstration at Turtle Island. She later sued. Settlements followed: $400,000 with two staffers and $75,000 directly from Conway, along with a mortgage on some land. After delays, Conway completed the payment in April 2012, around the time filming for Mountain Men began. Despite the legal battles, financial pressures, and physical demands, Eustace Conway continues to live his chosen life, striving to bridge the gap between human and nature. The struggles of Turtle Island Preserve underscore that living off the grid is far from easy, but for Eustace, it is a life worth every challenge. The reality behind Mountain Men. When viewers tune in to Mountain Men, it's easy to assume they're seeing the unfiltered reality of life deep in the wilderness. The show follows survivalists who have left behind city life to navigate self-sufficient living in some of the most remote parts of the United States. It highlights the ancient skills necessary to endure harsh environments: trapping, hunting, building shelter, and fending off predators. These mountain men understand the challenges posed by rough terrain and unpredictable weather, particularly in places like North Carolina. They rely on resourcefulness, grit, and determination to survive, and they show viewers how they tackle each obstacle in their daily lives. For anyone interested in learning survival skills, the show is an educational treasure. From hunting and tanning to tracking and trapping, it's a hands-on guide to the basics of wilderness life. But what makes the show compelling isn't just the lessons, it's the people who live them. Eustace Conway is one of the most memorable stars. Audiences see him splitting logs, hunting, enduring storms, and living without the safety net most of us take for granted. It feels raw, unpolished, and real. Yet, there is another side that viewers rarely see. The truth is that Mountain Men is both reality and television storytelling. The survivalists, including Eustace Conway, Tom Orr, Marty Maiorato, and others, truly live rugged, demanding lives. They face real dangers, endure physical hardship, and follow time-honored traditions largely forgotten by modern society. At the same time, producers shape the narrative. Scenes are sometimes tweaked or edited to heighten drama. A crisis may be emphasized, and what appears to be desperation can be slightly exaggerated for the camera. Eustace's life at Turtle Island Preserve is genuine. The cabins, the trails, the daily labor, and even the legal battles were real. He was living this lifestyle long before cameras arrived. What the show does is slice his life into digestible stories within an hour-long episode. That often means the most difficult days, storms, shortages, or emergencies, are shown repeatedly because they make compelling television. Reality shows focus on tension and drama, not the quieter, consistent labor that actually sustains life off the grid. In her biography, The Last American Man, writer Elizabeth Gilbert captured Eustace's own reflections. He admitted, "When I go out in public, I deliberately try to present myself as this wild guy who just came off the mountain, and I'm aware that it's essentially an act. I know I'm a showman. I present people with an image of how I wish I were living. But what else can I do? I have to put on that act for the benefit of the people." In other words, the show isn't fake. It simply presents a curated version of his real life. Another fact often overlooked is that while the show emphasizes solitary survival, Eustace rarely works entirely alone. Turtle Island has volunteers, apprentices, and visitors who assist with building, repairs, and daily maintenance. The camera sometimes hides these support systems, giving the impression that Conway handles everything himself. Yet this doesn't diminish his accomplishments. If anything, it makes him more relatable. Survival is never truly solitary. Without Mountain Men, many people might never know these traditions still exist. Sharing skills and preserving knowledge has always been Eustace's mission, and the show amplified that mission far beyond the preserve's boundaries. For Eustace, the truth is simple. He chose a life in the wilderness decades ago, and he has lived it every day since. Cameras follow him, but they don't define him. The work shown on television is the same work he performs whether or not anyone is filming. Even after stepping away from the show, you would still find him chopping wood, building shelters, and teaching students. The television spotlight may have amplified his story, but it never created it. The ultimate truth about Mountain Men is that it offers a glimpse into a life most of us will never experience, but it can never show the full picture, the quiet, unseen labor, the daily sacrifices, and the personal struggles beyond the cameras. That makes the Mountain Men all the more human. They demonstrate that living close to nature today isn't about abandoning modern life entirely, but rather finding a balance between two worlds. Eustace Conway has acknowledged the challenges, the aging body, the legal battles, and the health concerns, but he never considered abandoning Turtle Island or his mission. In fact, he remains more committed than ever to the land and passing on survival skills to the next generation. While rumors had both truth and exaggeration, the spirit that drove him as a boy in the woods endures. For those concerned that his journey had ended, Eustace Conway is still the man who finds peace living off the grid, closer to nature, and sharing that way of life with the world. The questions linger, though. If age and health continue to take their toll, how long can he maintain this demanding lifestyle? What will become of Turtle Island if he can no longer oversee it? And when the time comes, will the legacy he has built survive or fade away with him? That, perhaps, is the ongoing story of Eustace Conway, the man, the mountain, and the life he chose. What do you think about Eustace Conway and his extraordinary life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Before you leave, Check out the other videos appearing on your screen. You might just discover your next favorite story.